In this tutorial, we will have an introduction to motion design cloners and animate them. Then we will render them and use them as an image sequence in different graphics in Reality 5.7. This is a new Unreal Engine 5.7 project browser. You can access our existing templates from the New Project button. There are graphics templates. In the Virtual Studio category, you can find AR and VS example templates along with their starter options. If you don't want to use any predefined configuration, you can also start with a blank project. For this tutorial, I'm going to use the MSAA starter example. This template is already configured with project settings suitable for overlay graphics. Let's give it a name. I'll call it Image Sequence. You can see that the project location is set to my project folder. Now we have a blank project here. There's nothing in it yet. Launch level is not very important right now because I want to show you how to create an image sequence from motion design levels and motion design graphics. This workflow helps you design your graphics, render them out, and reuse them, for example, as background animations in different graphics. With this approach, you don't need any other design software to create this type of content. You can use Unreal's motion design capabilities instead. First, let's create a new level. I'll create a folder named Levels. Inside this folder, I'll create a new level by right-clicking in the content browser. I'll name this level Background Render. So we can easily identify what it's used for. I'll double-click to open it. Since we're going to use motion design for a background animation, we first need to turn this level into a motion design level. I click here. This button enables motion design mode. Next, I click the default button to create the camera, post-process settings, and lighting. I click OK and then spawn. It's also a good idea to enable save frames here so you can see the camera's save frame. I also changed the background to a checkerboard pattern so I can clearly see the camera edges. Now let's create some basic designs. For this example, I'll create a procedural animation using cloners. On the left side, in the motion design panel, if motion design mode is not enabled, you can enable it from the drop-down menu. Here you can see several categories, and one of them is cloners. Inside cloners, there are different cloner types. For example, a grid cloner. Grid cloner creates a grid pattern, as the name suggests, along the X, Y, and Z axis. There are also other types, like cylindrical cloners. For this example, I'll use the grid cloner only. I double-click it to create one. If I press the C key on the keyboard, I can switch to free camera view. From the details panel, I can change the amount of the cloner. For my example, I'll set it to 50, 50, and 0. I won't create any effectors here. Instead, I'll animate these cubes with keyframes for a visually rich background animation. First, I enable the step parameter. This changes the position along the X, Y, and Z axis. As I move this value, you can see the grid shifting. This parameter can be animated easily using the sequencer. To add depth, I also enable displacement. At first, nothing happens because displacement requires a texture. I choose a built-in noise texture from the engine content. As I increase the displacement amount, the texture information creates surface variation. Tiling is too big. So let's increase UV tiling scale. Now the result looks more subtle and more balanced. From the camera view, this is what we currently see. I rotate the graphics, move them slightly backward, and reframe the composition. I change the position of the cloner here, but you can adjust camera position as well instead of the cloner. I rotate the graphics, move them a little bit farther away, and adjust the framing to see more cubes. This part is purely design-based, and it depends entirely on what you want to achieve. I check whether the step parameter is working correctly. The animation starts from an offset position and all the cubes move into their final places. This will be my in animation. Displacement adds extra depth to the final look. Instead of using flat white cubes, we can add color variation. Inside the cloner hierarchy, there is a default cube mesh. I don't want to use this one, so I create a new cube and drag it into the cloner. I delete the default cube and reset the transform values of the cube. For this cube, I change the material type to Material Designer. I choose Opaque Material Type to create a metallic look. I enable roughness and metallic channels. For the base color, I use a solid white color. I reduce the roughness to make the surface shinier by applying a brightness and contrast FX. So I select the FX layer, not the texture FX, and decrease the brightness value. In the preview, you can see that the surface is getting shinier as this value is reduced. I think this result is good enough. Now I need to do the same thing for the metallic channel. For the metallic, I can use the texture, so I search for metal. Here it says roughness, but I can also use this texture for the metallic channel. When I apply it, I get this kind of result. I want to add more variation, especially color variation. To do that, I duplicate this cube inside the cloner and change its material. Actually, I only change the color since I want to create full screen graphics for a new type of design. I choose a blue color, a bluish tone. I slightly desaturate it and reduce the brightness to get a more natural look. As you can see, all the cubes are aligned the same way. But I want something more random. To achieve that, I select the cloner. There is an option to randomize the distribution. Under the Mesh Renderer category, you can see the Mesh Renderer mode. I change this mode to random. From here, I can also change the seed value. For example, I can set it to 0, 1, or 2. If I want to change the overall look, I can adjust this value. There is too much blue right now, so I want fewer blue cubes. I duplicate the white cube again to reduce the amount of blue. Now we can create the animation. I select the cloner and locate the step parameter. This is the final position, so I add a keyframe here. At the beginning of the timeline, I offset the step value. I play this. It is quite fast. We need to delete this. This area is too fast. Instead of doing this, I might need to move my model a little bit. I will add a keyframe right here and then 15. I can leave the curves like this. I can tweak the lighting a little bit more to get more reflection here. So I can change my effect lighting rotation to get more shadows on these. I think that's fine. And maybe we can change the displacement a little bit more as well. I will search for displacement here, like this. it is a little bit better.